Hi, today I am going to discuss about ecosystem. Before going for the ecosystem, we have to know what is ecology. Ecology is the branch of biology. It is the study of relationship between the organism and their physical environment. That is how the organism interact with one another and their surrounding environment. Coming to the ecosystem. Ecosystem is the functional unit of ecology, comprising of biotic and abiotic factors of an environment that interact to form a stable, self-supporting system. According to Odom, an ecosystem is the basic fundamental unit of ecology, which includes both the organism and the non-living environment, each influencing the properties of the other, and each is necessary for the maintenance of life. There are different types of ecosystems out there. For example, pond ecosystem, lake ecosystem, desert ecosystem, grassland ecosystem, forest ecosystem, etc. Then, structure of an ecosystem. An ecosystem consists of abiotic and biotic factors. The abiotic factors are non-living factors. They are further classified into two types, that is climatic factors and edaphic factors. The climatic factors related to the climate and the edaphic factor is related to the soil. Then the biotic factors are classified into three types based on their role in an ecosystem. First is the producer, second is the consumer, and third is the decomposer. The decomposer is otherwise called reducers. The consumer of an ecosystem is further classified into primary consumer, secondary consumer, and tertiary consumer. Then structure and function of an ecosystem. Each ecosystem has two main components. Number one is the abiotic factors, and next one is the biotic factors. Coming to the abiotic factors, the abiotic factors are the non-living things in an ecosystem. The abiotic factors have strong influence on the structure, behavior, distribution, and the interrelationship of the organisms. The abiotic factors are mainly classified into two types. Number one is the climatic factors. The climatic factors includes rain, temperature, light, wind, humidity, etc. And second one is the edaphic factor. The edaphic factors which is related to the soil. These includes soil, pH, topography, minerals, etc. Then the functions of the abiotic components. The abiotic components have various functions. For example, the soil provides water, nutrients, and shelter for the organisms, and the atmosphere provides carbon dioxide, which is utilized for photosynthesis, and oxygen for the respiration of organisms, which are found in an ecosystem. Next is the solar radiation, which helps to heat the atmosphere and helps to evaporate and transpire water. The evaporation, transpiration, and precipitation helps in the cycling of water between the atmosphere and the earth's surface. Next is the sunlight, which is very important for the process of photosynthesis, which provide energy for the plants, which is utilized for their growth and also for their storage. Next is the water forms major components of most of the organisms. Next is the biotic factor. The biotic factors are the living organisms, which includes plants, animals, and microbes. The biotic factors are further classified into three main groups based on their role in an ecosystem. They are producer, consumers, and decomposer, which is otherwise called reducers. The producer. The producers are the organism which contain chlorophyll. They are able to produce their own food by means of photosynthesis. For example, plants, bacteria, and algae are producers. With the help of the chlorophyll, they can able to trap the solar energy and convert them into a chemical energy, mainly carbohydrates, by using the inorganic substances like water and carbon dioxide. The producers are otherwise called autotrophs because they can produce their own food. Auto means self and trophos means feeder. Next, consumers. The consumers are the organism which depend on the other organism for their food source. They are otherwise called heterotrophs because they depend on other organisms for their food. They cannot able to produce their own food. They are further classified into three types. It is primary consumers, secondary consumers and tertiary consumers. The primary consumers are the organisms which feed directly on the producers, so they are otherwise called herbivores. For example, grasshopper, goat, deer, rabbit and phytoplanktons are primary consumer. Secondary consumers. The secondary consumers depend on the primary consumer for their food source. They are otherwise called primary carnivore. For example, lizard, fox, snake, zooplankton, etc. Next is the tertiary consumer. The tertiary consumer depend on the secondary consumer for their food source, so they are called a tertiary consumer. They are otherwise called secondary carnivores. For example, lion, tiger and wolf are the tertiary consumer. Next is the decomposers or reducers. The decomposers are organisms which break down the dead and decaying organic matter for their food source and convert them into simple inorganic and organic substances. These simple organic and inorganic substances are utilized by the producer, which resulting in the cyclical exchange of materials between the biotic community and the abiotic environment of an ecosystem. This process is called biogeochemical cycle. They are otherwise called saprotrophs. The decomposers are also called detritivores. For example, bacteria and fungi. Then food chain. The sequence of eaters being eaten is called food chain. The biotic factors are linked together by food in an ecosystem. For example, the producer became food for the herbivore. The herbivore became food for the carnivores. And this figure shows the food chain of a grassland ecosystem. The grass will be eaten by the grasshopper, and it will be eaten by the birds, and the birds will be eaten by the snake, and the snake will be eaten by the owl. And these, after the death of these biotic organism, they will be decomposed by the bacteria or fungi, and they convert the complex organic substances into simpler inorganic and organic substance, which will be utilized again by the producer. The food web. The interlocking or interconnection of various food chain is called food web. The food web is very important for the maintaining of the stability of an ecosystem, and this figure shows the food web of a forest ecosystem. For example, the green plant will be eaten by the mouse will be eaten by the snake, and the snake will be eaten by the kite. This is one of the food chain. And the same plant will be eaten by the rabbit, goat, etc. And the rabbit will be eaten by the cat and the lion, and it will be also eaten by the jackal. So various food chains are interconnected. This figure clearly shows how the different types of food chains are interconnected, and this interconnection will help for the stability of this ecosystem. In the trophic level of an ecosystem, in an ecosystem, each step in a food chain is called a trophic level. For example, in a grassland ecosystem, the grass became the trophic level 1 and the grasshopper became the trophic level 2, the frog is in the trophic level 3, the snake in trophic level 4, the hawk in the trophic level 5. Next is the energy flow. The flow of energy or the transfer of energy from one trophic level to the next is called energy flow. The energy flow in an ecosystem is always unidirectional. Almost 80 to 90% of the energy is lost during the transfer from one trophic level to the other for the respiration and their excretory purpose. Thank you.